I am Mohan Shandilya from the executive of Singapore. Today we are at New Delhi in India with Moscow media team to meet Mr. Shiv Khera, the world-renowned inspirational and motivational guru who has authored several books, and the most famous of them is You Can Win. Mr. Khera, our readers would be very happy to learn from you. When was You Can Win conceived, and what is its DNA, the building blocks?
Well, I think the book probably was conceived more like 35 years ago when I went to Canada, started life washing cars. But I started penning down the book somewhere around 92, 93, and finally I got published, I think it was 97 or so, and my first publisher was Prentice Hall. This was published in Singapore. They had our international rights. And then, of course, the Indian subcontinent was published by Macmillan's. That's really how it started out.
And what is the DNA of this book?
I'd say the DNA is, it is simple to understand. It addresses day-to-day issues. This does not have the jargons or any kind of management principles. This is talking of motherhood truths. And really, if you analyze any management principle, they might label it as management principle, but they are all really motherhood truths. So what we have done here is really brought those homegrown truths out to the public. When people see the kind of examples that we have, they can relate to it and they say, oh yeah, I went through that earlier, or it happened to me, or when that happens to me, that's what I'll do. So immediately it brings people to reality and they say, okay, this is not something that is new to me, or it is theory that I cannot put to practice. You close the door, go out right now, and you start putting into practice. So these are based on universal truths, eternal truths that cross country, cross culture, and cross religion. So it applies to every country, every culture, and it applies to every age group. And it applies to every profession too. Because how can a salesperson be a good salesperson without a good attitude? How could an executive be a good executive without a good attitude? How could even a housewife be a good housewife without a good attitude? Therefore, it is addressing issues on attitude, leadership, motivation, and values.
That reminds me, when you speak of attitude, you were delivering a speech in Singapore, and there was a taxi driver, I think Henry.
That's right.
And when he did not know the right way to their destination, though his meter showed $11 or something more than $11, but he charged $10.
That is correct.
And you were pleasantly surprised to learn from him that yes, it is legally correct to charge $11, but ethically wrong. So I'm charging you honestly $10.
Very true. And in fact, Henry is still with me after 15 years. And important thing is, what he said after that was very crucial. He said, I am not a taxi driver, I'm an ambassador of Singapore without a diplomatic passport.
So nice.
I think that was talking in terms of pride in the country, and that is what picks up any society, any nation together, because they always look at the larger interest. And when there's a larger interest, that is the time people go beyond themselves. They stop just thinking me, myself, my family. They go a lot beyond. And in fact, having worked with some Japanese companies, they go a step further. In fact, to them, responsible behavior is quality product, responsible behavior is considered patriotic. And poor quality, irresponsible behavior is considered unpatriotic. And to them, pride in the country comes important. Now, Pride in the country does not mean that my country is better than yours. That's a very narrow negative meaning.
Very true.
Pride in the country means to them anything made in Japan carries the respect and dignity of every Japanese citizen. Now that is a very positive way which you take pride in performance, pride in your nation, and that's what carries them forward. And the same kind of pride I saw in Singapore too.
Yes.
Look at this kind of behavior in the taxi driver. What prompts him? Takes pride in his nation.
Well, we are very lucky to have you in India, and I hope Indians will also adopt that healthy attitude.
I just hope too. That's important.
What is your experience while you have been in India after you returned from USA?
Well, I am in and out, but I think India still has a long way to go. And most important thing is, I find most Indians are honest. They have become victims of crime. They're not partners in crime. I'll share with you a little example. What is the difference between the two? See, if I apply for a license and bribe somebody and throw a more deserving person, what did I become? A partner, he became a victim. That's a license. But you see, when you talk in terms of life and death situation, you take somebody to the hospital, and they're bleeding, nobody cares. But if you bribe somebody, they take him right away. Your principle says you would not bribe. Question is, would you let him bleed to death or would you bribe? Now, I would say I would bribe, and many people would bribe. Legally, I just became a criminal, but ethically, I just saved a life, didn't I? Question is, am I a partner or did I become a victim of crime? Now, you look at Gandhi's life, he broke every British law. Anybody who breaks the law commits a crime, then he was the biggest criminal. He said, beyond the law of land, there's the law of humanity too, which is more important. So keeping that in mind, by and large, you find invariably in corrupt countries, to do legal things, people do illegal things. And when you talk of systems in India, including the judiciary, in fact, how can a democracy ever function without a good judiciary? And you find, I think, that those are some basics missing. You heard one of the judges or say that the number of pending cases that are there in India, it will probably take 370 years to clear the backlog. 370 years. You know something, they keep talking of justice denied is justice delayed is justice denied. No, I say justice delayed is democracy denied.
Oh, yes.
It is total denial of democracy. There is no democracy if the custodians are missing, and the reality stands that custodians are missing. That is true.
But the laws are there to take care of these problems. What is your reading? Why they have the power, but they don't seem to use that power?
Well, it comes back to, show me one country in the world that does not have a law against littering. Every country has it. In fact, when we set up our office in Singapore, there were some people in the US, they were asking, well, how is the atmosphere there? There are things you can't do. Do you feel constricted? I said, no. I said, for an honest person, there's total freedom.
Yes.
For a criminal, it's not. Well, that's called civilized, in my opinion. And then I said, what is it that you want to do that you cannot do? That was my question to my friends in America. And impulsively he said, well, you can't litter on the street. I said, tell me, would you like to if you could? As a civilized person, would you like to if you could? You know something? He just kept quiet, right? He got the answer. So I asked him, I said, show me one country in the world that does not have a law against littering. Every country has it, but Singapore implements, that's all. What's the difference?
So what ails the Indian judicial system, or even for that matter, Indian administrative system?
I personally feel, I think culture in any country starts from the top. It's not only the administrative system, but I think it starts from the politicians further down to the bureaucracy and the custodians of the democracy, which is what the judiciary is supposed to be. I think corruption has gotten so deep-rooted into our system that nothing happens unless people are bribed. But you know something, it is cancer. People have gone beyond the state of bribing. Bribing used to be considered speed money at one point. But today in India, it is not speed money, it is extortion money. How? To get ration cards, to get water, to electricity, to get justice, you are forced into paying bribe. Means if you don't pay, they chop off the water, they chop off the electricity, they chop off your ration cards. Now, is this called bribing or extortion?
It is.
This is extortion.
Yes.
Now you tell me, this is outright extortion. Doesn't mafia do the same thing?
I agree with you, yes. Yes, absolutely. No, there is no difference.
So where is
In order to get rid of these evils, I think you filed some public interest litigations in Indian
I
court.
filed
Would you kindly share with our readers your experience?
3 PILs in the Supreme Court. One, for criminals to be thrown out of the parliament, right to elect must be accompanied with right to reject. Means the citizens of India should be given an active right to protest. Today, many of them protest in a passive manner by not going to vote, because they say, well, you don't have any good candidate, who do I go to vote for? Either they vote for caste or religion, or they make the weakest criminal win. Now the weakest criminal wins. Question is, did you really want him to win? Does he represent you? And now the weakest criminal, by getting power, has become the strongest criminal. This is what has been happening. So we have filed in the Supreme Court that citizens should have a right to actively protest. There must be an option called none of the above. If more than 50% people take that option, then all those candidates should be disqualified from that one constituency for that one upcoming election only. You have a democratic right to stand up for election, they have a democratic right to reject. So they did. I think that will open up the area for good people to come in, that's one. And second is, we have filed for honest citizens to get justice, there must be a witness protection plan. In India there is none. Witness is either turned hostile, either the money or muscles plays a very important role. They are bought or they are threatened and they pack up. How can you have a democracy when you have no system to protect your witnesses in order to stand up for justice? Countries like Canada, other places, US, they do have a witness protection plan. Why don't we have it? And by the way, tell me, all that we are talking here, this is common sense. I mean, what no smarter? You have people in the parliament who are Harvard graduates. I mean, they are not innocent by any standard or ignorant by any standard.
Yes.
Neither ignorant nor innocent.
Yes.
So if they still don't do it, it only means, I think, that is malified intentions in spite of that. And the third PIL that I have filed in the Supreme Court is that reservations for jobs and employment and education should not be caste and religion based. Economics should be the criteria, so you can uplift people who are deserving all the way. But the way things are happening here, in fact, even yesterday you might have seen in the parliament, for the upcoming census,
Yes.
they have said everybody's caste must be classified. Look at this. I mean, this is nothing else but a recipe for dividing the nation into several small pieces, heading for another partition. What are we heading for? I think it is disaster. I think for the politicians, for their 5-year gain to get into power, to do all kinds of tricks and trickery. I think this is not trickery, this is treachery. I think it's disgraceful.
And what happened to these PILs?
Well, they have been delayed. Notices were issued, by the way, including to the election commissioner.
And how long you have?
Oh, they have already been now almost 4 years now.
4 years?
Oh, yeah, 4.5 years. Look at this.
So the state has not come before the court, though they were served with notice?
That is true. I'm not totally updated on that.
All right.
I need to check on that.
Okay, coming back to You Can Win, you have a new book, latest book, You Can Sell. What is the difference and what made you go into the selling aspect of management?
I would say that You Can Sell is really an extension of You Can Win. You Can Win is talking of attitude, leadership, motivation, values. But tell me, if we can't sell that attitude, leadership, motivation, values, if a leader cannot sell his idea, how good a leader is he? He's not a very good leader either. But when I wrote the book, some of the press people asked me, You Can Sell, is that for salespeople only? So my question to them was reversal, who's not selling?
Yes.
A job candidate at an interview, isn't he selling? Boy, girl proposing to get married. A lawyer arguing a case in front of the judge for his client. A politician making speeches to get votes, who's not selling? A mother sells an idea to the child. Now the consideration is not money, it is emotional, but she's selling.
She's.
So looking at that perspective, this book You Can Sell, it addresses foundational principles. And they asked me, you need to learn tactics. I said, no. Professionals learn principles.
Yes.
Because tactics are manipulative. Principles are based on foundation of integrity. And then, all of a sudden, many times, a question came from the groups that in selling, you need to learn the tricks of the trade. I said, no. Professionals learn the trade. They leave the tricks to the cheats and crooks. Yeah. Foundation is, again, integrity, which means 90% of selling is conviction, 10%